The Haunting in Hollow House. It was a bitter winter's night when Amelia Harper received a letter in the mail. The letter, written in elegant cursive, was an invitation to an event that piqued her curiosity. It read, "You are cordially invited to a séance at Hollow House, a place where the living and the dead converge. Come if you dare. The spirits have much to tell." Amelia's interest was piqued, and she couldn't resist the allure of a séance in a house with such a sinister reputation. Hollow House had stood abandoned for decades, shrouded in myths and urban legends. The townsfolk whispered tales of unspeakable horrors that had befallen anyone who dared to enter, with a sense of trepidation and fascination. Amelia decided to attend the séance. She packed a small bag and made her way to Hollow House as the moon hung low in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows across the snow-covered landscape. As she approached the house, she could feel an icy chill in the air. The once grand mansion was now a dilapidated structure, its windows shattered and its walls covered in graffiti. Amelia hesitated at the front door, but a strange compulsion pushed her forward. Inside, the air was thick with an oppressive silence. Amelia could hear the sound of her own breathing, the creak of the floorboards beneath her feet, and the distant howling of the wind. She found herself in a dimly lit room, adorned with dusty, tattered drapes, and a solitary antique table at its center. The other attendees had already gathered around the table, each of them a mix of curiosity and fear in their eyes. There were 6 in total, including Amelia. They sat in a circle. The room seemed to close in on them as they awaited the start of the séance. A woman named Eliza, a self-proclaimed medium, led the proceedings. She was clad in black, her eyes shrouded by a heavy veil. Her voice was a soft, melodious whisper as she began to chant an incantation that sent shivers down the spines of all present. By the powers that be, we call upon the spirits of Hollow House, forth from the realm of the dead, reveal your secrets to us. The room grew colder. The air seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The flames and candles on the table flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The presence, palpable, foreboding, settled over the room. Suddenly, the table began to shake. A collective gasp escaped the lips of the attendees. The atmosphere grew heavier. A spectral figure materialized in the center of the room. It was the vision of a young woman, her eyes filled with sorrow and despair. Her voice trembled. "I am the spirit of Hollow House, for centuries." Amelia and the others listened in rapt attention as Eleanor's story unfolded. She had once been a young bride who had moved into Hollow House with her husband, Samuel. Their love was passionate, but it soon turned to obsession. They became prisoners of their own desires. Eleanor recounted the horrors that had taken place within the walls of the mansion. Samuel, consumed by jealousy and madness, had accused her of infidelity and locked her in a hidden chamber deep within the house. There she had withered away, tormented by the relentless whispers of malevolent spirits that haunted the place. Amelia and the other attendants were horrified by the tale. Suffering that had endured for generations. One of the spirits, a man named Charles, revealed that he had been a caretaker of the house in the 19th century. He had unwittingly become a pawn in a diabolical game played by the malevolent forces that resided within. Charles had been forced to commit unspeakable acts, and his soul was forever tainted by the darkness of Hollow House. Amelia and the other attendees were overwhelmed by the horror of it all. They realized that they were not mere spectators, but participants in a dark ritual that had bound them to the spirits of the house. The malevolent forces had drawn them in. There was no escape. séance drew to a close, Eliza, the medium, spoke a final incantation to release the spirits. But it was too late. The malevolent forces that had been awakened were now unleashed, and they hungered for vengeance. The room filled with a deafening cacophony of screams and wails as the spirits of Hollow House exacted their revenge on the living. Amelia and the other attendees were thrown into a nightmarish realm of terror. The walls of the mansion seemed to close in on them. The very architecture of the house twisted and contorted, becoming a labyrinth of horror. They were pursued by vengeful spirits, their faces contorted in agony and rage. Amelia found herself separated from the others, her heart pounding with fear. She stumbled through the nightmarish corridors of the mansion, pursued by the relentless spirits. The very air was charged with malevolence, and she could feel the presence of the house closing in on her. Amelia finally found herself in the hidden chamber where Eleanor had been imprisoned. The room was a chamber of horrors, filled with the tortured souls of those who had suffered within its walls. She could hear the whispers of the malevolent spirits, their voices a relentless chorus of torment. As the spirits closed in on her, their faces contorted with rage, Amelia was filled with desperate resolve. She would not be another victim of Hollow House. She would not be bound to its dark legacy. With a surge of determination, she began to recite the incantation that Eliza had used to summon the spirits. By the powers that be, I command you, malevolent forces, to return to the realm from which you came. Release the living from your grip and return to the darkness. The air grew still and the spirits paused, their faces twisted in anguish. Slowly they began to fade, their forms dissolving into the shadows. Amelia's voice grew stronger, and she repeated the incantation with unwavering conviction. One by one, the spirits were banished, their anguished cries echoing in the chamber. As the last of them disappeared, the room returned to its former state, and the oppressive presence that had hung over Hollow House lifted. Amelia was left alone in the chamber, the weight of the house's dark history heavy on her shoulders. She knew that she had broken the cycle of suffering that had plagued the mansion for centuries. But she also knew that the horrors of Hollow House would never truly be forgotten. As she made her way out of the mansion, the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon.